Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I'm really so honored to be amongst all these incredible speakers and people participating in this. Let me see what my first, okay. So let me describe what default is. It's like what we're stuck with in this world. And what I experienced out at Burning Man was what we call home, because we get to make it what we want. In this world, we can't. But now I'm learning through my life that we can change it. So, all right, so I grew up in New York City, and it was my whole world. There was nowhere else, obviously, because I couldn't see anywhere else. I was surrounded by tall buildings. And I was working as a model and an actress, and I got bit by a Great Dane. And it sort of changed my life. I couldn't work, so I jumped on my motorcycle, and I got a full face mask so I wouldn't get burned. And I traveled across the country. And I got to have a great time on this trip, and visited a friend in San Francisco, and she said, oh, there's this thing in the desert, everyone goes to it. You should go to this thing, Burning Man. To this day, she still has not gone. She had no idea what she was talking about. I had no idea, she knew nothing. But off I went to the desert, just carrying what I had on my bike, so I really was totally unprepared. Burning Man, what is it? Has anyone here, a few of you have gone. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's north of Reno by 2 hours in the greatest flat expanse in the northern North America. And it basically is, takes place August 25th through September 1st. And the gist of it is basically they create the playground and you guys bring the toys, and you are the toys. And I imagine these guys didn't even know each other. One guy needed to move his piano, and the other guy was like, hey, I'll take you there, and created this great little vignette. It's also a great place to test out relationships. That's why I have these two people looking a little strange on the bottom, just because I had an experience my second year, which really sucked. I went with a new guy, and it really didn't work out. But that was a really good proving ground, so I didn't have to waste any more time with that guy, and I could move on. So Burning Man, it takes place outside this tiny little town in Gerlach. It's probably the only thing Gerlach has is this thing and speed racing. And you know, we emoliate this man in the middle of it, but that really isn't it. That's just one thing out of a million things. It's performance art, it's strange pieces of art that people have dreamed up. It's art cars, it's whatever you think of can come true. And so you'll see all kinds of strange things out there. And I'm sure you guys have heard there's nudity and drugs and naked people, you know. And you'll see some of that. You'll also see people that you will recognize and maybe you won't recognize. One of the things that really rocked my world was that there were people out there that were taking on different names and different identities that were famous, that you wouldn't even know what they did, which was really cool because they were being judged for what they did out there, not necessarily what they did in the default world. And so you really never know who you're talking to, which is nice. Black Rock City has its own airport. It has its own temples. It has its own, well, I guess that would be sort of the governance. If you have, if you have a problem with somebody, you try and work it out, but you could always take it to Thunderdome and, you know. So yeah, there's a little bit of governance there. There are people that organize this whole playground for us and make it possible for us to have bars and post offices and, I don't know, McDonald's sort of, not really, and hammock camps, whatever you can think of, really. Hey, you want a French Quarter, you build your own French Quarter. You want a movie theater, you build your own movie theater. You feel like you want to have a cruise ship, you bring a yacht out there. Whatever you want, really, as long as you're not hurting anybody. It started on the beach in 1986. When I went there in 1996, this was a picture of the city that I went to. 1998, they started developing the city, which is in itself a piece of art, and it's designed really for the most interaction between people. And this is last year, 68,000 people. This year to be 70,000 people, all doing their own thing and being cool. Very little crime in Black Rock City. People take care of each other and play with each other. So you go out there and you have your strange theme camp or whatever, and people come and interact with your theme camp as if you actually have a post office. And this is what I experienced, was there were people volunteering and coming up with ideas, events, parades, workshops, and they were doing it. And they were volunteering to help your friends to do those events, parades, and workshops. And everybody was doing something. You were only being judged if you weren't doing something. And even then, people were like, well, he could have just done something and took a shower. So he might look like he's not doing something, but he just did something, and who knows what he just did. These are the 10 principles. The one that really hit me the most was the gifting part of it. There's no money at Black Rock City. So everything you do is a gift. You're not asking for some sort of return. There's no barter. It is all love. And you could be going to get a drink and get it with a joke or a song or just being silly. So I did very well there. Also, I found there was a lot of communal effort to do things. People couldn't do these crazy things alone, so you'd find other people that liked doing crazy things with you. And through that, you'd have these families emerge. And, the crazy stuff is what brought you together. So, okay, back to my trip. So I came back from Burning Man, had this terrible experience with this guy. I have this art piece here because they fought, and it didn't win. This Vegematic fought this ice ball, and it didn't win, and that sort of represented that terrible relationship that didn't work. I dragged my husband kicking and screaming to Burning Man in 1998, and he was sort of pissed at me because the whole time I was running off to volunteer, and he's like, you dragged me out to the desert, what the hell? And I was like, well, that's what it's about. It's about going out and having your experiences and meeting new people and trying new things. And I came back to New York, and we started throwing events to find other people, because you needed to talk about this thing. You just went through this mind-altering experience, and here you were back in the city, and you couldn't see the light for the trees or, well, the buildings. There was no sun, really. So came back and started talking to people, and we found a few people, and then we found a few more, and then we had a few more. And by 1999, we were throwing events in sports bars, completely transforming them, turning off the TVs. This was in Wall Street at a sports bar. You couldn't recognize the place. And I was really sort of jealous of the people in California, because they'd go out to Burning Man and they'd just throw their whole house in the truck. They'd have a coffee table and a lamp and a couch, and they'd be in the middle of the desert with all this crap. And I was like, oh, New York needs to represent out there. So we started shipping containers, dragging all this crap, art and couches and weird stuff across to the playa, to Black Rock City and back. And that grew more community, because you had all these artists trying to get their stuff across the city, across the country. And we formed really tight bonds, because that's tough to do. And then we had this small event happen, which was not small at all. It was 9/11 happened. And our community suddenly came together in such a way that I hadn't experienced in New York City. New York City is sort of a lonely place. But suddenly we had this whole family. This was us on 9/12 at Union Square. Like, all these people are freaked out that this thing just happened, and we're all screaming like, yes, we're alive and we're together, and it's awesome. And it was really a life-changing moment, not just 9/11. 9/11 had a lot of similarities to Burning Man. Strangely enough, a lot of the gypsum came from Black Rock City, Black Rock Desert, which is where all the boards came from to build that building. So people were wearing dust masks and covered in dust, and so it sort of resonated with what we just came back from. So I thought, there were all these firemen and relief personnel standing around barrels on fire to stay warm, and something in Black Rock City that people would do would make these art pieces out of barrels. And so we gathered a bunch of artists together and gathered a bunch of barrels, and we made barrels for all the firemen and the policemen who were standing out there, and added some art to their life while trying to stay warm and deal with this situation. But that brought us together again, and we felt like we could help, because we couldn't do anything else, really. And then a month later, we were like, well, we just had this incredible experience at Burning Man. We came back and our whole world collapsed, so we decided to throw a party, because that's what we do. So we got this giant warehouse, and we filled it full of art in every orifice of it, and people were just wild that night, and they needed it. They needed to come back to that magical space that we just experienced in Black Rock City. And through that experience, we formed even tighter bonds. We started a not-for-profit Society for Experimental Arts and Learning. I became a regional for New York City, and we started bringing lectures to town about Black Rock City. We started doing fundraisers to try and bring more awareness to what's happening at Burning Man. And then in 2004, the election was coming up, and I said to my husband, I really feel like I need to do something. And he told me to go do it, because if I didn't do it, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. And he was right. It didn't stop anybody from not getting elected. I wasn't being partisan in this. I was following the 10 principles, once again, being radically inclusive, just telling people to get involved and participate in their elections, in their PTA, in their town. Get out there and do something, because without everybody doing something, it sort of goes to shit, goes downhill. So this was the largest conceptual artwork in the United States so far. I drove from New York City and wound up in San Francisco, and of course stopped in Black Rock City for quite some time, and registered people all across the country, talking to them about getting involved and participating and listening to them and smudging the bus after having to listen to them, because some of these ideas I didn't agree with, but I couldn't tell them that. I just said, yay, good, go vote. So, because it was radically inclusive, right? So that's part of that. So then in 2007, I was invited to produce a camp where we brought New York City to Black Rock City. And we recreated Astor Place in Black Rock City to show the cluster that was happening in Astor Place was that there's 6 roads going through one place. And if we took out those roads and made it a public space, it would be much cooler. And it really showed that. As soon as we put up the subway station, people recognized it. We had a sound system in there that made the sounds of the trains coming and going. We had people spraying it every day, putting up graffiti. And then people, of course, were peeing inside of it, because that's what you do in the subway station. So you got a whole sensory overload when you walked in there. It was pretty awesome. And we had 70 newbies come with us that year. And that was the year the man burned early. And they all thought the event was over. They were like, oh no, the man burned, I guess we go home now. I was like, no, that's not. We'll rebuild the man, and it'll be okay. So, which we did. So I moved here to Las Vegas 5 years ago. And I had gotten in touch with the local burners, and I'd heard about this project that was going on in Black Rock City for the first time, which was a CORE project, a circle of regional effigies that regions around the country, now there's like over 200 regionals now around the world, but the CORE project, we built a showgirl, wooden showgirl, and I went to the city of Las Vegas, and I was working with them about the Halloween parade at the same time, and I said, we're gonna build this giant showgirl, we'd like to burn her, and Mayor Oscar Goodman looked at me like, I like showgirls, don't burn showgirl. And I was like, it's wood, it's okay, it's gonna be okay. You can come light her if you like, but we had Tony light her. But the Office of Cultural Affairs liked the idea so much, they gave us money, and they told us to burn another one here in town, to build another one and burn it here. And that was the Flames of Change first Vegas burn. And we did that by raising money through doing urban playa, garage sales, people donated stuff, and it was really cool, because it brought the community together to do something crazy. That's how we really get to play, and we get to know each other much better by, instead of sitting around drinking, we build crazy shit and burn it. And we also brought, with Downtown Project, we brought this little friendly UFO that was built by kids out of recycled pieces, and it was fantastic, because they showed people that it was a combination of people making this UFO. It wasn't one artist. It was like 100 little artists, and they all took a part of it, and they all felt like this was their art, and they were very proud of it. And we could show the school kids here that big things can happen with a bunch of garbage. Look at that. It's amazing, this little UFO. And it moved to Zappos for a little while. It was really nice. So this is my son. He's 2.5 now. And I brought him to Burning Man when he was 2 months old. And then I brought him again last year, and now this is going to be his 4th burn. He'll be 3. You know, why I keep bringing him back. why I want him to grow up in this world. And there are kids now, it's been going on for over 20 years now, so there's people that have grown up in this culture, and these kids are cool. They see their adult friends building stuff. They see their adult friends working together. They see their adult friends imagining things and making them come true and working together, and it's just so awesome. And he wants to use power tools, and why not? You know, as long as he's got adult supervision, let him go for it. Let him build his dreams. Let him wear bunny ears if he wants. You know, he's happy. And that's the world I want him to grow up in. I want him to grow up in a community-filled, energizing space where dreams can come true, where people can be heroes and be kind to one another. And so I put this lady up there because I think she's cool. I think that Burning Man is going to help people learn their superhero-ness, and it will teach them new skills, and it will teach them to work together, and that's it. The end. Thank you.